Welcome. Today, we're going to go over rear end housings. We have a lot of commonly asked questions of what housing would be best for me, what material would be best for me, how do I measure one of these things if I'm going to order it. So we're going to try to go over all that and answer those questions. If you're ordering a housing from us, this is a great video to watch. Even if you're ordering it from somebody else, also a great video to watch. There's a lot of people that make really nice products when it comes to rear end housings. So hopefully this answers all your questions. We're going to start off with our 8.8. One of the most, if not the most, asked questions is, how much horsepower is an 8.8 good for? Well, that's a hard to answer question. There's no set number that as far as horsepower rating that anything can be rated to, because cars are way different. The tire that they on is different. You know, a radial stresses a car a lot differently than a big floppy tire that tire shakes a bunch. And there's a lot of ins and outs to that question. But generally speaking, an 8.8 is going to be behind a small block turbo Mustang for the most part. So we rate them around 1,500 horsepower. Now, the 8.8, the weak point of that is always going to be the ring and pinion. We've actually never have broken an 8.8 housing out of all the things that we've done. Personally, we've been 440s on an 8.8, our battle ready 8.8, with a car that weighs around 3,000 pounds. So if you do the math, we were making over 1,800 horsepower with that. But like I said, the ring and pinion is definitely a weak part. The next question we get is really what the weight difference between that 8.8 and stepping up to a 9-inch is. So we make, and this is really a tribute to Brad. Brad always wants us to have everything in our product line. So from a guy that's just starting out to all the way nice, we try to cater to everyone. We wanted a nice mild steel 9-inch housing option for the Mustang, just because there really was a gap in the market of capability from the 8.8. Then you could buy a cheaper, stamped 9-inch housing. It would still have the sphericals on the top of it. Just didn't have a lot of good bracket options. So really, besides the strength, you were honestly downgrading from your 8.8, again, besides the strength. So we worked really hard with Hammer to come out with an affordable mild steel option that has just as much capability as our Chromoly Mustang housing. That housing uses 188 wall axle tubes. And then all the brackets on the mild steel Mustang housing is 3/16 with an 1/8 inch doubler. On the flip side of that, our Chromoly Mustang housing is a 250 wall tube, and it has 1/4 inch thick bracketry with 1/8 inch doubler. So it's a little bit more stout. Also, the Chromoly housing is built on a center pinion, where the mild steel housing is built with a standard 5/8 offset. So if you look at your Mustang, the floor pan, or the tunnel, transmission tunnel, and the motor is actually offset to the passenger side from the factory. That's a 5/8 offset. So that's why we build the mild steel housing in that 5/8 offset. And then the Chromoly housing, our thinking is it's going to go in a way faster car, more of a purpose-built race car. When you do that, you build the car with a centered pinion, that we've centered up the motor, probably doesn't have a factory tunnel anymore, things like that. So that's why we separate the two like that. Now, if you took your 8.8 out and you replaced it with one of our mild steel Mustang housings, that actually weighs almost identical. We did that in Dave and Cheese's Ultra Street car. We took out our Battle Ready 8.8 and put in our mild steel Mustang housing, and it was within a pound. So really comparable. The other cool thing that we do with our bracketry, and I can't speak to everyone's, but our bracketry on the top, it actually has the factory hole that you would have on an 8.8 with sphericals. So if you take out an 8.8 and you're really happy with the way that the car's working, you can put our 9-inch in and get back to a really close, geometry that you were racing with. That pretty much covers all of our stock suspension stuff. So the 8.8, again, 1,500-ish horsepower. the mild steel Mustang, again, these are all approximate numbers for a car on radial. We've ran them in X275 cars, so 2,500-ish horsepower. We've never broke one. We've never bent one. And again, they have the 188 wall axle tubes. Now, let's talk about 4-link housings. These, we have 2 sitting up here. Both these are chromoly, and then I have a mild steel one behind me. We actually did some weighing before this, all for science, so that we know exactly some weight differences, things like that. Our mild steel 4-link housing, again, has a 188 wall tube, where the chromoly has the 250 wall tube. That's really the biggest difference. Now, if you take a piece of mild steel that's this big and you have a piece of chromoly that's this big, and it is the same thickness, that weighs identical. There's no weight difference between this, chromoly and mild steel and the same thickness of material. There's none. So that's a common misconception, that the mild steel housing will automatically be heavier. That's not true. If they were built identical, they would weigh the exact same. Within, there's a tiny variance there, but that's not worth getting into. So on, which housing is best for me? Well, it depends on what you're gonna do with the car, how much horsepower you're gonna make. Some people just want a chromoly housing. I totally understand that. There is about a $500 price difference between the chromoly and the mild steel. If you're gonna make under 2,500 horsepower, again, kind of back to the turbo small block thing, that's a super popular combo. A mild steel 4-link housing is going to do everything that you want it to do. It's going to be every bit as capable as the chromoly housing, and it's going to weigh actually a few pounds less, just because of the difference in the axle tubes. So we did some weighing here. The mild steel housing, mild steel 4-link housing was 67 pounds and a similar length to this. This chromoly housing right here was 70 pounds. So we're within 3 pounds of each other. It's really pretty close. The only thing that you can't do with the mild steel housing later is this, is if the car starts making more horsepower later and you want to upgrade to a floater, which this is what this is. The ends, as you can see, is a different style. It's a whole different deal. On a chromoly housing, you can cut these are flanged ends. You can cut these ends off and install these floater ends by just adding some plug welds and putting these in. You can do that because it's a 250, the floater ends are set up for a 250 wall housing. So if you buy a mild steel housing, it's got the 188 wall tubes. You cannot upgrade it to a floater later. That's one of the, if there's a downside, that is the downside. This floater housing, just for, again, for science, as Brad calls it, this has our 1/2-inch thick O-ring faceplate that we get from Hammer Designs. All of our housings start out with a kit from Hammer. If you want to do a DIY housing, you can order these same kits that we use from Hammer. So this has the 1/2-inch faceplate, and also it's a floater housing. This housing right here weighs 78 pounds. So it's the addition of the 1/2-inch faceplate and the floater, just the spindles here, is going to add 8 pounds. We would recommend, this for, a car that's making 3,000 horsepower and above. Just, this is as nice of a housing as you can get from us until, you would step up to a modular or something along those lines. I hope that answers most of your differences, why, things like that. Now I'm going to go over our housing build sheet. If you order housing from us, we are going to email you this sheet, and we're going to ask you to fill it out. Please don't email me the measurements or anything like that. There's a really specific reason why we want you to fill this out, because it does have a place for your signature on the bottom. So if you mess up your own measurements, that's on you. If you're ordering this, the biggest question that we have is, how do I determine what the length is? Now, Brad did publish on our website a Mustang housing cheat sheet. That will, if you're building a Fox body Mustang or a New Edge or a SN95, whatever, we can typically figure out that width for you as long as you tell us what wheels you have. We can help you with that process, and that sheet is published on our website. So if you're building your own housing and you're not sure the measurements, you can go there and check that out for Mustangs. Now, if you're building a 4-link housing, that's a little bit different. And also you can still order a Mustang housing the way that I'm about to describe. On the sheet, there's 2 different measurements up here. It's either an end-to-end or a wheel-to-wheel. If you already have an existing housing that you are replacing and you want it to be exactly the same, just give us circle that end-to-end measurement and write it there for us. Now, if you don't have an existing housing, but you have a set of wheels, and just so you know how the order of building a race car goes, you have to have the wheels before you order one of these bad boys, typically. So what you're gonna do is put those wheels up underneath the car. You're gonna put them exactly where you want. So and you wanna get the car close to ride height, because the lower the car sits, the more that the quarter panels roll in and the more that the wheels need to get sucked in. So you're gonna kind of put it at ride height, put the wheels exactly where you want them on each side, and then you're gonna go under the car, and you're probably gonna need a friend or your wife or your girlfriend, somebody to help you hold the tape measure. And you're gonna measure from the back side of the wheel mounting surface to wheel mounting surface on the inside. So where that wheel would bolt up to the axle flange, that's what you're measuring. So from inside of that wheel mounting surface to inside of wheel mounting surface, that's gonna give you the dimension. You're gonna circle the wheel to wheel, then put that measurement on there, and then from that, we can math it out and figure out what the housing would actually be flange to flange. The next, and I'm just gonna go down here, the next question on here is anti-roll bar tabs. We have on axle tube or on the back brace, and then obviously we need a center to center measurement for that. Now, if you have a welder and you are capable of welding anti-roll bar tabs on your own housing, I would highly suggest that, and this is why. If the car has no anti-roll bar in it and you're building it, you really don't know where the tab is gonna fall on the housing. And what I mean by that is it could go from the center of this axle tube, maybe a little bit back, maybe a little bit more, and share the back brace and the axle tube, or it could be all the way on the back brace. So you have a really big spread of where that housing could fall. Now, I've seen people that offer, where they have multiple holes. We don't particularly like that. We'd rather just have one single set of tabs. So if you are capable of putting on your own anti-roll bar tabs, I would highly suggest that. Or if you already have a housing and you know that they're in the center of the tube, just let us know that, or what the position on the back brace is. The next note to kind of go over is all of our chromoly housings do come with a centered pinion. And then your next question that you have here is vertical wishbone tab. That would be on this housing, you can see it. This is our wishbone tab here, which we can add for you. And you just need to circle yes or no. That's a $100 option. And then the next question is what you want your width of your 4-link brackets to be. And we do this on center. So we need to know what your center to center measurement is on your brackets. Now, if this is going into a brand new car, then that measurement doesn't matter as much, because you are putting it into a blank canvas. We like to have our brackets on a small tire car spaced out as far as we can. Now you're going to run into frame rails, things like that. So most commonly we're between 20 and 24 inches, somewhere along those lines on center for brackets. Now if you have an existing car, it's really important that you get that measurement correct, your center to center, because that's going to dictate everything, right? So make sure that you get that right and double check yourself. And that is the last bit of information that we need. Now these housings both have a gusset package on it. We've actually decided to make that standard instead of an option. So you'll notice that the price of our housings have went up just a little bit. And that is because we're making this gusset package standard. Once you're happy with all this, again, you will sign and date that. The reason that's important is because you are agreeing to a custom piece. This is something that's one-off for you, so we just don't want to be held liable if you mess your own measurements up. That's why that's there. So please, when I send you this, please fill it out and send it back. I think that I've went over everything. What do you think, Rick? We've covered all the questions that we commonly get. Again, we really appreciate you guys. the lead time on housings is going to depend on when you order them. If you have a question on lead time, you will have to call us. We can tell you how many housings we have in front of you. Everything that we build is done in the order that they're received, and we can build about 2 of them a week. So based on that, I can kind of give you a rough idea of when you would have one at the time that you order it. But as always, we appreciate you. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and please share this video. Like I said, it's not, even if you're not ordering a housing from us, this is really good information on how to order a customer in housing. See ya.